Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. It is November the 24th in the year of our Lord 2025. It is Thanksgiving week. We're going to celebrate all week long. Be ready for that. There's so much going on, so little time. Our goal to promote God, family, country, protect life, liberty, and property. We're going to talk about the DOJ, the FBI, Kash Patel, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, G20 Summit, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., Operation Fishbowl, and we're just getting started. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Dr. Scott Bradley in the house. freedomsrisingsun.com, his collegiate series to preserve the nation, his weekly webinars and more, all available at freedomsrisingsun.com. Doctor, welcome back from a long vacation, or I shouldn't say vacation, a work trip.
No. We've been on the road, and so we've done some family things and helping out a little bit, stuff like that. Been in a number of states and checking out the prices of diesel fuel everywhere I go. We
and what do you find?
It's never been more expensive. I mean, I just don't get it. Donald Trump is trumpeting. I don't know how I want to say it. He's trumpeting his success on fuel costs, driving them through the floor and all that kind of stuff. It's 10 times the cost it used to be when I was young. But at any rate, I guess that's what inflation does. This adding, dollars to the economy, chasing the same amount of goods and services. And what does it do to prices? It jacks them up. And then they say, oh, yeah, well, that's greedy, factory workers or business people or whatever. No, it's the government jacking around our system and then blaming somebody else. John Maynard Keynes was such a toad. That's the nicest thing I can say about him. At any rate, Keynesian economics, and not a one in a million understands what inflation is, he says, and he's right. Most don't. But if you really stop and think about it, inflation is government caused, and that's the bottom line. So anyway, other than that, things have been pretty good. We've had great weather. It's low 30s right now. Clouds are low hanging. I'll bet you the snow's only 300 feet above my property line. So we're getting down there where it's going to get frosty pretty quick.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you right now, Americans can't handle what's going on financially and otherwise, and things are falling apart for Trump literally at every turn. And I know some people would say, Sam, as an inside Republican, you can't say that even if it's true. You gotta, no, I'm not a member of any party, and I can say whatever I want to. This is America, and I have free speech, and I can, Trump might hate me and attack me, and I hope he doesn't jail me, but, with modern realities, he could. I pray that we can just have free speech in America and stand for liberty and have opinions and beliefs and, and I really hope we can shape public policy to change the game in meaningful, productive, solution-oriented ways. So DOJ, well, they're just a clown show as far as I can tell. They haven't really arrested or investigated in meaningful ways anybody significant. Everyone they've even tried to supposedly indict and everything else, that's all fallen apart. The DOJ under Pam Bondi's turned into nothing but a clown show. In my opinion, nothing but distraction. But forget DOJ for a second. What about Doge, DOGE, right? What about those guys? Well, it's defunct now. They say it's defunct after less than a year in operation. And they laid off thousands of, quote, federal workers. They failed to achieve their significant budget reductions they promised. That's a big failure. Despite claims of achieving $214 billion in savings, they say that's far below the $2 trillion they projected. No, hold on. Elon Musk came out in the beginning, said it was more like $4 trillion. Then he dropped it to 2, then he dropped it to 1, and now we're not even at $500 billion. We're literally talking about $214 billion in savings. And I guess I'll take any savings that I can get, but we're talking pennies compared to what we started talking about. It's been a promise made and a promise broken. Infighting in Doge everywhere. Elon Musk at odds with Donald Trump, although they may be on the mend. Time will tell. This is just disaster, Doctor.
Well, like I say, I'll take any tax reduction I can get, and budget constraints going in or they're going the right direction in a way. But the real big problem is that Congress has been completely remiss. Generally speaking, and if you look at Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 of the United States Constitution, they are the ones that legislatively create budgets. And the president doesn't have a whit of anything to do with any of that. I mean, he spends it, but unless Congress legislatively allows it, it can't happen. And Congress, I used the term toad with John Maynard Keynes a moment ago. Congress is a whole collection of toads. I don't know if that's a flock or a herd or what it is, but I don't think
it's
Trump
a gaggle of toads, Doctor.
A gaggle, okay, I don't know, whatever it is. But the fact of the matter is, Congress is really the one that people need to start looking to, and they have had a buy year, not purchasing year, but a year that they haven't been in the game, and they've done so. There's been a few rare exceptions. People
and those few rare exceptions are all getting attacked by Donald at every turn as well. For example, the FBI now has concluded that Thomas Matthew Crooks acted alone in the shooting of President Trump in Pennsylvania back on July 13th, 2004 or whatever. FBI Director Kash Patel and Director Dan Bongino discussed the findings during a Fox News interview. They say this extensive investigation is one of the largest in FBI history. It involved 485 staff members, over 1,000 international interviews and more. And investigators reviewed 13 electronic devices and 35 accounts, including emails and everything else. And hey, he acted all by himself. Do you buy it, Doctor?
Well, I'm not in a buying mode right now, I guess. By the way, today's the 62nd anniversary that Lee Harvey Oswald was assassinated by Jack Ruby in the parking.
Yeah,
I don't know,
he acted alone too, didn't he?
That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, their conclusion is always, lone wolf, right? And so that's the problem. Is that. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. And, I don't have as much inside information, perhaps, with this Trump assassination attempt as I've been able to accrue over the last 62 years. But I still think that there's some gaps that they haven't closed. And I think DEI hires in the Secret Service has got to be...
All right, so Doge failed. Crooks acted alone. Alexis Wilkins, the girlfriend of Kash Patel, is in the news. I guess she went to the National Rifle Association's annual convention in Atlanta, and she was speaking, and they had all kinds of protection there for her and everything else. Despite prior online threats, the agents left after they determined that the venue was safe. Kash freaked, criticized the team's premature departure, and questions have been raised now big time about Kash Patel and him using these government services for his own purposes. In other words, hey, it's unprecedented to give a girlfriend, some of this protection. And then questions have been raised as well about Patel's use of government resources for personal and protective reasons. Okay. He's been flying jets around, leisure activities. Critics, including former agents, have expressed concerns about the extra use of SWAT teams for personal protection and the legal implications thereof. All I can tell you is I'm the one that endorsed this guy, and I don't even know how to respond now. I'd love him to speak out for himself and set the record straight. I'd love him to come on the TV with me and talk about it and, let everybody know what's going on. Right now, all I hear is don't attack Kash because something, big is coming. They've been telling you something big is coming since Donald Trump had to walk out the first time under pressure. So I'm not impressed at all with what's going on with this, Doctor. How about you?
Well, have you ever heard of Praetorian Guard? They're the palace guards. They're the ones that keep the regime in power. They're with Caesar or wherever, whoever the big guy is. And it's interesting to me that, stop and think about it, Sam. If can you have an entourage of, FBI, Secret Service, security people that travel with you at government expense when you're going on the road and you're going to speak at something, anything like that? It seems to me just another, how shall we say, an indication or a factor in pointing out the fact that there is a two-tier kind of thing going on here, where the elites are always, they've got their armed guards. And
y'all thought it would be different under the Donald, and you're finding out, same. Liberty Roundtable live in seconds.
Why don't we say to the government writ large that they have to spend a little bit less? Anybody ever had less money this year than you had last? Anybody ever having a 1% pay cut? You deal with it. That's what government needs, a 1% pay cut. If you take a 1% pay cut across the board, you have more than enough money to actually pay for the disaster relief. But nobody's going to do that because they're fiscally irresponsible. Who are they? Republicans. Who are they? Democrats. Who are they? Virtually the whole body is careless and reckless with your money. So the money will not be offset by cuts anywhere. The money will be added to the debt, and there will be a day of reckoning. What's the day of reckoning? The day of reckoning may well be the collapse of the stock market. The day of reckoning may be the collapse of the dollar. When it comes, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you it has happened repeatedly in history when countries ruin their currency.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
There's a principle, ladies and gentlemen, that I want to point to that I think will really help you understand what's going on in the country. You debate, is MAGA good, is MAGA bad, is Donald good, is Donald bad, is this, is that, and what about Kash Patel, and what about all these people, and are they going to get to the bottom of things, and da-da-da. You can always look at the past to know the future. History repeats itself. That's one principle. But the principle that I'm getting at is this. Whenever they ridicule, mock, attack, abuse, bully, what other words can I use? Right? An individual, so scripturally speaking, whenever they cast the prophets out of society, you know that it's going to go south fast. Okay? Whenever they literally remove the prophets, kill the prophets, ridicule, mock, bully the prophet out of society, then you know it's getting bad. Well, they've been starting to do that now to anybody who disagrees with them. Trump's taken the lead, sad to say. I'm disappointed. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is the case in point I would highlight. She said she's resigning from Congress. Yeah, she's done. She's out. She can't take it anymore. A year early, by the way. Triple-term Congresswoman, and now leaving early. Representative Greene, by the way, has hinted at a possible presidential run in 2028. However, she denied such intentions in a Vanity Fair interview. Why you'd be interviewed by Vanity Fair, I don't know. The places these elites go, for example, to get interviewed and covered and focused on is very strange to me, quite telling. But I look at this Marjorie Taylor Greene thing, and I think Donald Trump literally abused her to where she just simply quit and said, I'm not doing it anymore. Whether she has a future in politics is yet to be seen. But doctor, it's a telltale when society allows wicked leaders, or whatever you want to say, to remove people from society. And I know she's not removed from society yet. They didn't kill her, but we see the starting of this already. Dr. Bradley?
Well, you're absolutely correct. I was just reaching for a little bit of information. Me, I just kind of want to drag the past into things and stuff like this, But first of all, while I'm looking for this and this stack of stuff, there's so many things with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm sorry to see her go. She was. I'm
100% sorry to see her go, but this is my point. If you want to know their real intentions, this is what you look at, okay? Don't look at what they say, look at what they do, okay? And what they've done is they've taken Massey, my favorite congressman, used to be Ron Paul when he was there, and they've attacked Massey relentlessly. Now they're attacking Greene relentlessly. If you don't go along with whatever Donald wants, then you're ostracized. You're out. Okay, societies do that when they're evil. Doctor, they don't do that when they're righteous or good or moral. They do that when they're dictatorial. They do that when they believe somehow they're above the rest of us in a certain way. Okay, they do that. When they do, though, God's wrath is not long in following. And I realize it's just, bully her right out of Congress. But what's next? Bully Sam off the TV? Bully Dr. Bradley? What's next when this stuff happens? It's really something important to consider.
Well, it truly is. Here's the problem. Trump's loyalty is not to the Constitution. I think you'd be hard-pressed to point out any instance where the Constitution has been at the basis of a decision. He takes an oath before God to abide by that and fulfill his assignment based upon that written document, that contract with America, if you will.
The supreme law.
His issue is with loyalty to him. And it's a one-way street. And if he feels like that someone has not been totally towing the line in agreement with him, they're toast. And it's a tragic situation when one individual considers themselves so all-important, the almighty, if you will, that everybody else has to bow and scrape before them the whole situation.
Now, Greene gave a speech explaining her exit, and she simply said that. She said, listen, I've supported Donald more than anybody else, really. I've supported a lot of his decisions, a lot of his initiatives. I'm criticizing the Republicans in Congress because they haven't done their due diligence or their duty at all. And I'm criticizing Trump because, you know what? I have my district to represent. I have every right to be hesitant about certain things and express my views on certain things. But if that's not acceptable in America anymore, I'm gone.
Well, here's the statement that I was looking for through my stuff. This was a statement made by Noah Webster, one of the founding fathers, a great original founding father, great Christian fellow. He said, God commands you to choose for rulers just men who will rule in the fear of God. The preservation of a republican government depends on the faithful discharge of this duty. If the citizens neglect their duty and place unprincipled men in office, the government will soon be corrupted. Laws will be made not for the public good so much as for selfish or local purposes. Corrupt or incompetent men will be appointed to execute the laws. The public revenues will be squandered on unworthy men, and the rights of the citizens will be violated or disregarded. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we are in that world today. And I think that the Marjorie Taylor Greene, harassment is just an indication of that. It's interesting. The founding fathers knew there would be differences of opinion, and they lived with those. They dealt with those. They shared those ideas, and oftentimes they synergized them into something that became pretty cool, the United States Constitution. And I think it was under the inspiration of God. But I think we have abandoned those kinds of individuals today, and it's a tragic travesty where if someone does not toe the line 100%, we are the toadies of the president. They're gone. And I think that the Congress will be worse off without Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, now they've got even more of a narrow margin than they had before, Doctor.
Well,
what sense is that?
It's indeed true. It's kind of like we're going to cut out the cancer, we'll take out the brain while we're at it. But the fact of the matter is, there seems to be a very short-sighted view about how things might be done. Totally, it's based upon personal loyalty and not loyalty to the things that really matter. Oh, by the way, the presidential thing, you mentioned that. She is like number 3 in the polling. Now, she's way down. I mean, J.D. Vance is like, I think I saw 55%. And she's like, I don't know, probably 8 or 9%, 6%. But she's even ahead if Donald Trump could run again. She's ahead of him. He's only 5%. But I know that, I'll tell you, this is going to sound really strange, but some common sense people, if you want a Democrat-Republican kind of partnership, put Marjorie Taylor Greene in as president and John Fetterman in as vice president. I mean, this guy has more common sense than all the rest of the Democrat Party combined.
Now, you got to put Marjorie Taylor Greene and Bobby Kennedy.
Oh, Bobby Kennedy would be absolutely. I mean, Bobby Kennedy should have won the presidency, is what he should have won, and it would have been more than just taking
but again,
this
is again where they cast out their own doctor. If you don't toe the line of what they want, if you don't have flat out pure socialism and run the country over, invasion on the borders, and you don't stand for murdering everybody with the kill shots and everything else, then hey, you're ostracized. She got the same treatment Bobby got the same treatment Greene's getting and Massey's getting, and the question is, will Thomas Massey lose or will he win? And we'll be praying for that. But in the meantime, the G20 leaders are meeting. They adopted a declaration at the beginning of the summit. It was in Johannesburg, South Africa. They just met or whatever on November the 22nd. And I guess the U.S. boycotted the event, Doctor. And I guess the summit was hosted by South African President, what's this guy's name? Cyril Ramaphosa? I don't know how you say that. Anyway, but they focused on issues like climate change and global inequality there. They had a 122-point declaration, which the U.S. opposed. It called for more global actions affecting poor countries. So it's basically just nothing but a big old handout global organization. Despite the U.S., they claimed that they had unanimous adoption. The problem is Argentine president said no. He did not endorse the declaration. He skipped the summit as well. The G20, comprising 19 countries, the EU and the African Union, basically said we got to move forward even though all these people are absent. The U.S., by the way, will take over the G20 presidency at the summit's conclusion. I find that very fascinating. So we boycotted it, but we're taking it over. I guess there was only a junior diplomat there. And I guess the South African president said, man, that's a slap in the face. But I guess the U.S. is supposed to take over the G20 presidency at the summit's conclusion. Do you want to respond to that, Doctor? Because I find that interesting. If we're boycotting it, why would we take it over? Why wouldn't we just pull out and get rid of our funding and everything else? Because it's a red herring. It looks good to oppose it and then to take it over and to manipulate it and form it into, well, it won't be Klaus Schwab anymore. It'll be Donald Trump's look-alike or whatever you want to call it, right?
What we have here constantly is an effort to attempt to bring relevance to these globalist organizations. I mean, any way they can claw back some spin doctor's view, about how government and globalism and economies and all those kind of things with a socialistic twist. And that's all it is an effort to become relevant somewhere. And they really are losing relevance rather than gaining it.
All right, your government tells you everything to do and not to do, right? People are sick of it, but I'm just telling you every single thing in your life they tell you to do, how to brush your teeth, what toothpaste you can have, the whole bit. It gets worse. The Department of Energy should be shut down, not speaking out and telling you how to run your home. We'll talk about it. I'm Sam Bushman. Dr. Scott Bradley with me. FreedomsRisingSun.com is the Good Doctor's website. We're syndicated by the Loving Liberty Networks, lovingliberty.net. Hang tight. You're listening to and watching Liberty Roundtable Live.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. So much for the Democrat suggestion that President Trump has been issuing illegal orders to members of the military. Senator Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan telling ABC's This Week that she is not aware of things that are illegal. She's one of the Democrats who released a video encouraging military personnel to disobey orders from the commander-in-chief. Quoting Secretary of State Rubio, I think we made a tremendous amount of progress. America's top diplomat referring to the latest round of Ukraine peace talks.
We're working through making some changes, some adjustments, in the hopes of furthering narrowing the differences and getting closer to something that both Ukraine and obviously the United States are very comfortable with. Obviously, this will ultimately have to be signed off by our presidents, although I feel very comfortable about that happening given the progress we've made.
The BBC's Peter Bowes with the White House perspective.
The statement is short on detail, but it says the talks were focused and respectful. In a summary of the negotiations, the White House said the Ukrainian representatives believed the updated draft of the peace plan reflected the country's national interests, with enforceable mechanisms to safeguard its security in the near and long term.
President Trump has set a Thanksgiving deadline for Ukraine to sign off on the U.S. brokered peace plan. In the air, on the roads and the rails, millions of Americans will be getting away this holiday week. The FAA is preparing for its busiest Thanksgiving in about 15 years, with more than 360,000 flights scheduled, and the TSA expects to screen more than 17.8 million people. Keep an eye on the weather, though. Unsettled weather is expected for 2-3. Could be rain in some areas, snow in others, possibility of thunderstorms and high winds. Watching Wall Street, the Dow 90 points higher. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Hey, it's Mike Gallagher, host of The Mike Gallagher Show. I don't mess around when it comes to saving you money. Right now, rates have dropped to the lowest level in over a year and a half. That means if you bought your home or refinanced in the last 3 years, you could be saving hundreds of dollars every month. Lower your rate, lower your monthly payment, even kick that pesky PMI to the curb. And get this, you can skip 2 full months of mortgage payments. But that's not all. Fellowship Home Loans just rolled out something incredible. Their very own HELOC and lines of credit. Approval in just 5 minutes. Money in your account in as little as 4 days. It's the easiest system you've ever used. You can do it yourself online. Whether you want to pay off bills, tackle a home project, cover education, or even a wedding, Fellowship Home Loans makes it simple to leverage the money that's already sitting in your house. Just go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, or call 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending guided by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
Step into the boots of the American West with Range Magazine, where grit meets grace. This is a front row seat to the stories, struggles, and triumphs of ranchers, farmers, and stewards of the land. From jaw-dropping photography to no-nonsense reporting, Range brings you the untold tales of life on the range. Whether you're a city dweller with a cowboy's heart or living life where the pavement ends, Range speaks to the soul of the West. Subscribe today at rangemagazine.com.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At CSPOA.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Freewater Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began, Freewater, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Freewater Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Free Water Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Free Water Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
It is Dr. Scott Bradley and yours truly on TV, on your radio. We're available on Rumble and YouTube and Twitter and that's called X now, huh? X, and we're just everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Liberty News Radio, Liberty RoundTable, LovingLiberty.net, Freedom's Rising Sun. I mean, it's just everywhere, folks. But I mentioned right before the pause that the U.S. government wants to tell you everything to do in your life and everything not to do. And so now the government's just come out with this awesome, important thing for you, doctor, just so you know. The U.S. Department of Energy recommends setting your thermostat at a certain level. It's the optimal level, they've decided now. The problem is when they told me the number in the summer, it's different than the number in the winter, doctor. So the optimal level changes based on the seasons. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, yeah, so, you better tell me those so I'll get on board with this stuff. I mean, sounds like they know it all, doesn't it? Yeah.
So do you want to guess what your thermostat should be at in the winter?
Probably 68.
Yes, sir. That's only when you're awake, though, my friend.
Oh.
Darn right. You got a different sleeping number. You should lower it while you're asleep, my friend. Well, or if you're away so that you can save energy and reduce your heating costs. Okay? So now it's 68 in the winter and it's 78 in the summer, don't you know? When it's hotter than 8, they want you to crank it up. So they got kind of a 10 degrees fluctuation there. Energy costs, according to J.D. Power and Associates, has risen by 41% since 2020. Then they say with the average electric bill of $184 a month and the average gas bill $141 a month. Okay, so it's just through the roof. However, Energy.gov notes say that reducing your thermostat by 7 to 10 degrees can decrease your bill by about 10% on heating and cooling. They say tips for winterizing your home, dealing with, drafts in your home, maintaining heating systems, keeping ducts unblocked. They say lower temperatures actually help retain heat longer. And if you want tips, go to the government website and all this kind of stuff. Now, the reason that I bring this up is, folks, let me just kind of say something to you. If you have a $184 electric bill and a $141 whatever bill, so just say, for all intents and purposes, it's $300 a month between the two, and you save 10%, you're saving $30 a month. But that's if you reduce your whatever by 7 to 10 degrees. And the reason I say reduce your whatever is because you've got to reduce temperature in the winter. And you've got to increase temperature in the summer. So see, by the time I change it 7 to 10 degrees, my house is hotter than crap in the summer. Right? And in the winter, my house is cold. Well, it's a relative cold, you see. It's government-approved cold or government-approved heat, don't you know? But I'm going to save a whopping $30 a month at best because it depends. 7 to 10 degrees is a pretty big amount, right? Anyway, I look at this and I think they're even to the point where they're telling me what to set my temperature at my house. And if I don't comply eventually, they're going to back into forcing me to do that, doctor. They're already trying with the digital thermostats and the whatever you call them. And okay. And so the U.S., they're going to take over the G20 Summit. They're also going to take over your house, doctor.
Well, there's a lot to be unpacked on this thing. You need to understand that all these smart thermostat things, I think that's where you were going with this. Someday, somehow, some way, there may be not only with your social score you're going to get some directives about how you're going to heat and cool your home. See, the big problem is that the free society is gone. There's no constitutional authority whatsoever to be able to have a general government. I mean, somebody can make a suggestion, they could whatever, but the fact of the matter is we're going towards compulsory things. And the only reason we got these huge, enormous, over-the-top expenses for our energy right now is inflationary driven again. I mean, here we are back with the idea that you've got so many more dollars chasing things. You know, the things that you said 41%, I think. I didn't write it down, but 41% from
yeah, it's gone up 41%. Yep.
Yep. Okay. What happened in 2020? Oh, my golly, my heavens. They put trillions of dollars on the table and they scooped them up with scoop shovels and they sent them out to everybody. And those dollars are out there chasing everything. And so prices have gone up since.
Well, wasn't that all under the Donald administration too?
Unquestionably, if anybody can still do their math, they can see who was president at a given time and who wasn't president. And by golly, it happens presidential administration to the next. And everybody that thinks that they've got a lid on this thing and Trump's going to drive prices down, you can't bring back the dollars that they've got out there chasing other goods and services. So what you've got is just a continual death spiral. And everybody gets placated. Oh, yeah, the energy department said if we lowered our temperature a little bit in the wintertime and we raised it in the summertime, we're all going to be rich and famous. No. Most people pay probably more. I don't know what people are paying for some of these exotic coffees they go into these coffee shops and buy, but they're probably $8 a piece or something, you know. Quit drinking those things and you're going to save money. It's just astounding to me.
Well, and you know, you think about this for a second. If you save $30 a month and your average bill's $300, so you're saving 10%, that's $30 a month. That's if you go to the 7 to 10 extremes that they talk about. Okay. So I don't know where your numbers really need to be to save as much as they claim you're going to save and all this kind of stuff. But I look at it and I go, you can skip one basketball game or one play or things are so expensive now. One nice outing. Take a Disneyland trip, for example. It dwarfs this kind of savings and stuff. And so, you know, if we're going to talk about savings, why don't we talk about, let's just back off from the economy a little bit. What if we just took one day a year and said we're not going to buy anything that day? They say, oh my gosh, the economy would actually melt down. You know, it wouldn't really. See, the economy is a big lie too. They want you to believe that the economy has to be bigger, faster, more, spend. And if we reduce our spending, then the economy is doing bad. I think the economy might be doing bad from a global perspective or from a consumption perspective. But I think that every dollar that doesn't go into the economy that the American people hold on to actually improves the wherewithal of most Americans to a great degree. So, I mean, even that is a big old lie. But then we go back to Operation Fishbowl, Doctor. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, just a second. Before we leave that, let me just make a comment. Let's put a restrictive diet or consumption process on government. Ooh, I mean, it's all, you know, you and me, we're supposed to tighten our belt a little bit more. You know.
Yeah, but Ron Paul tried to save a penny and they wouldn't go for it.
I understand that, and that's the whole fallacy. The whole fallacy with this thing is that the United States government, number one, doesn't have anything to say about whether I heat or cool my home the way I want.
They don't yet, but they're working on it, buddy. Pretty soon they'll haul you off to jail.
But my personal budget, I decide how I spend my money, and that should be the premier thing in regards to our consumption. But the government itself is probably 80% bloated. And I think we can make some pretty good arguments about that fact. And it's way out of bounds constitutionally. It was to be a limited government, checks and balances, separation of powers, delegation of authority. All of those things have been set aside completely. And we're off bombing fishing boats off of Venezuela, and we're sending billions of dollars to bomb Gaza. We're sending them to Ukraine to do that. We're bombing Iranians. Stop and think about this.
We've got a threat right now that they better sign this peace deal that supposedly we came up with, or else, right?
Or else. What's the or else? I mean, and what authority does a president have, or anybody? The Westphalian Treaty of 1648 says there are no second-class nations. There are no superior nations. There are no superior supranational anythings. And nations within their own nation have a responsibility to take care of business. That's the whole basis of what started this whole country. And we have forgotten every baseline principle. And if you don't toe the line, Trump cuts your throat, leaves you by kicks you to the curb, whatever you want to call it. But I'm just so frustrated with these guys. They don't get the real answers. we're fiddling while Rome burns, basically. It's crazy.
Well, and here's the point. At first, we used to say, does Donald really know, or does he not know, or is he, and everybody would say, well, he doesn't know, or they'd say he's got a grand plan, just be patient for it to evolve. Or now we're starting to realize he does know. When you start to do this many things, at some point, you can't just say he doesn't know. And at some point, you can't say that it's by accident or it's, you don't see the whole picture or whatever else. At some point, you've got to admit that we're leading the country flat out in the wrong direction.
Well,
okay? And that's really the problem that we've got here, is that you can't ignore it or pretend it's not happening any longer.
Again, just kind of bear with me for about 3 lines or 4 lines. Single acts of tyranny may be ascribed to an accidental opinion of a day, but a series of oppressions begun at a distinguished period and pursued unalterably through every change of ministers too plainly prove a deliberate, systematical plan of reducing us to slavery. So said Thomas Jefferson.
Operation Fishbowl, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about war. I want to talk about economic jubilee. It's all coming up in seconds on Liberty Roundtable Live.
This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing countries. As economist Tyler Cowen recently wrote, quote, "By having more children, you're making your nation more populous, thus boosting its capacity to solve climate change. The planet does not need for us to think globally and act locally so much as it needs us to think family and act personally. The solution to so many of our problems, at all times and in all places, is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids."
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about Operation Fishbowl for a minute. Many of you probably don't even know what it is. There's so many government operations, you'll never keep track. So, don't feel bad if you don't know what it is. It's the 1962 U.S. high-altitude nuclear tests that lit up the sky, baby. Yeah, Operation Fishbowl was a series of, quote, U.S. high-altitude nuclear tests conducted back in 1962 as part of the larger Dominique test program, right? It was aimed at understanding how nuclear detonations will affect space. The tests, including the well-known starfish detonation, were conducted over the Pacific Ocean. And basically, it was an EMP, and they wanted to see how it affect, missiles and affect different things. And these experiments helped shape modern understanding of the nuclear effects in space, and then affected downstream a lot of these nuclear agreements to say, hey, you better not, punch off nukes and everything else. There's all kinds of examples in history. 1859, I'll give you that little tidbit to go chase down for those of you who want to learn. There's magnetic storms that come from the sun. There's magnetic fields around the earth. In other words, everything is electrically charged, and The magnetic field of the earth prevents a lot of these solar flares and a lot of these things. But whether it's man-made or God ordained, the fact is an EMP could be very dangerous to the United States. And so, Dr. Bradley, I don't know when or what or how, but if Americans push back too hard and demand the truth on very many topics, or there's a big sea change in the country, for example, to jettison the direction we're headed, which is a communist socialist marriage, if you will, then they will blow the thing up. They'll take us to war. They'll do something about food and starve us out. They'll create an EMP and, take out the power. At some point, I predict they'll do an EMP. Somebody, when I say they, I don't know who, somebody in the world will do an EMP, and eventually we'll kind of go back to the dark ages. I don't know when that's going to happen. My guess is it will be real, though. And I know people kind of debate back and forth how real or fake or whatever it is. I'm convinced it's real, Doctor, and I'm convinced that at some point we could be blasted back to the 18th century again.
Well, you might recall, of course, maybe you don't, 1962, but we had some transistor things and stuff like that. Our advent of the solid state devices it was very early how we were doing things in terms of widespread availability. The EMPs are a high amplitude, short duration spike, like a big static discharge, if you want to think of it that way. Only a very much more powerful. It is
think about when you walk across a carpet and then you touch something and you get shocked. It's like that on steroids, right?
It is. And the fact of the matter is, back in the days of vacuum tubes and, our old electronics, it had very little effect on it. But with something that's these integrated circuits and everything that we have, everything from your wristwatch to your car computer to your refrigerator to your air conditioning and your thermostat, and certainly to our military weaponry. Now, I dealt in this world quite a bit 40 some years ago, and it was on our minds a lot because a nuclear device that's detonated at altitude sets off this short duration spike that enters the devices that are out there, and it basically destroys them. Your radio communications, your computers, your everything that has an integrated circuit in it now would be affected unless you've got a Faraday shield around them. They call them, where they basically put the spike to ground. It doesn't get to the device. But if you've got a connection, say from an outside line, unless it's a fiber line, fiber does not basically transmit these EMPs. Fiber uses light instead of electrical impulses. But the fact of the matter is, if you've got an electric wire coming to your home from outside to provide power to your refrigerator or your air conditioning or your heater or whatever, our heaters are largely solid-state devices driven too. So everything that Sam's talking about being driven back to the dark ages, if we shut down all of those things in some instant, your wristwatch wouldn't even work on your wrist. You wouldn't be able to use your computer. You can't hear your radio. And as clear back in 1962, we were doing these tests to see, and they have some pretty good data. And there's
how bad it will be.
Yeah, there's some. If there were 3 detonations over the United States at a certain altitude, it would take out our East Coast, our West Coast, and it'd take out the Midwest. So over, Chicago area or something like that. So we could literally be paralyzed in the information world with 3 nukes that were detonated at altitude and caused these spikes.
And it might not even be our enemies that do it with a nuke. It might be the sun that can send out these electromagnetic, pulses as well. I don't know if you know, back in 1859, it was called the Carrington event, and it was the most powerful geomagnetic storm ever recorded, ladies and gentlemen. And it affected all kinds of things with telegraphs and everything else back in the day. And now we're so dependent on this technology for our medical care, for our heating and our cooling, for our transportation, we're dependent on it for everything, ladies and gentlemen. So there you have it. I thought that was interesting and just thought I'd bring that to your attention. People can laugh and act like there's nothing to this. but I'm telling you, there is. And we'll be talking about preparedness more and more on this program, about how to get prepared, about what to do about some of this stuff. What do you do about it? What do you feel like your hands are tied? Government knows it's a serious problem, but virtually does nothing about it. They're too busy attacking Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey to do anything productive. That's the sad part. Final story of the hour I want to highlight. Health Secretary RFK Jr. personally instructed the CDC to abandon its long-standing viewpoint that, hey, vaccines do not cause autism. Now, they're attacking him relentlessly for that, but what he says is very simple. He said, hey, there's gaps in scientific vaccine research, and therefore, you can't say they don't cause vaccines because we don't have proof they don't. And they're saying, well, he's ignoring a larger point. Vaccines save lives. Well, that can be debated as well. They can save lives. They can also take lives. And if they're so confident that it saves lives, then just abolish the 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Fund and make the vaccine companies, take care of business. Let them be liable for their actions, and we'll see, how many lives they save or how many lawsuits they end up getting. This is a very interesting tidbit, but I commend Bobby Kennedy for telling the truth. We don't have proof they don't cause. We don't have proof they do, they claim, but we don't have proof they don't either. And that is his quintessential point. And I think he's right. And I think it's the start of some truth telling, Doctor.
Well, it's interesting to me that I'm pretty confident that when God ordained birth and, the propagation program from Earth for Earth and mortality, that children are not born vaccine deficient. Okay, so what has changed since 1986? And it has been the vaccine schedule, where the childhood vaccination schedules, that you get like 70 jabs, by the time you're, a teenager. Okay. And I don't know if I can unequivocally state this, because I don't know, there may have been some valid scientific research done, but I'm pretty confident there has not been a placebo, double-blind study, the gold science on these, the dangers of these things for safety on vaccines since probably the polio vaccine. I do not believe there has been ever any research done that would state, okay, we went through the hoops on this to do it. So you say, well, we don't know they cause why they cause autism, but the fact of the matter is we've never tested it. And
because we don't want to test it, because if we do, we might find out the truth.
Exactly, and that's the problem. And I know personally, many people, that the mothers, you listen to the mothers, that they're closest to their kids, and they can unequivocally state that these disastrous medical problems happened right after the vaccine session that they did with their doctor for a wellness baby check. Baby was doing fine.
Yeah, but what you do is you mock, you ridicule mom, you silence her, and you do whatever you can for her. And then if it gets really bad, you move her into vaccine court, which is all bottled up and kept silent, and you might give her a stipend to shut up. That's really what we see, ladies and gentlemen. All I can tell you is RFK Jr. standing up and saying, hey, we're going to change the guidance on the CDC that explains we don't know if they cause vaccines or not. I think it's a start. I think it's a truth-telling statement, and I think that we need to now then say, okay, well, if that's true, what does it take to verify this more? And it's going to require a lot of testing and everything else. They're going to fight against that tooth and nail, but at least somebody's doing something somewhere, Doctor, that I find to be good news.
I agree completely, and I applaud the effort. And I look at what happened with this COVID con jab. Rush to market, Operation Warp Speed. Where did that come from? Well, Donald Trump. Fact of the matter is, we marshaled forces against it. We got it to the market, and anybody that is not living under a rock has to understand that we have had a disastrous result from that. And it probably, most of the studies I've read say that it caused more problems than the disease it was supposed to counteract.
Well, the proof in the pudding is the Vaccine Injury Compensation Fund. That wouldn't have been necessary if there wasn't so many problems. Fact and point. Go look at 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Fund. Dr. Bradley, thanks so much to you and your family. A happy Thanksgiving. That's freedomsrisingsun.com. I'm Sam Bushman. Syndicated by Loving Liberty Networks. LovingLiberty.net. Spread the word, share the love, and God save the Republic. of the United States of America.